to thank everyone for coming out today. Welcome to our community forum for Black Lives Matter, Northwest Indiana, Gary. And we want to thank our partners in Hammond for being here as well. We have a group from, Black Lives Matter, Northwest Indiana, Hammond. But we are all one. How many of you all know that? Yes. Yes, and we are very sad to know that we have to have a Black Lives Matter. Yeah. Yeah, and we're looking for a day when all lives matter and all lives have equal value. And that's why we are here today. I want to say a quote from the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Injustice to people anywhere is injustice to people everywhere. So if there's any group of people that's experiencing injustice, it may not seem like it, but it affects all of us. How many of you all believe that? When you look at the wars and the unrest all over the world, that's because some group of people feels like they have been treated unjustly. And it's real, everybody. So I just want to thank everybody who took the time to come out today. This is a time for the community's voices to be heard about police harassment and police brutality. I know there may be some who say that that is not an issue in Gary, but there are those of us who know differently. All right? Okay, so first of all, I want to take the time to introduce our panel. We are so grateful to have a group of young leaders, not only in the city of Gary, but in Northwest Indiana, and soon to be across the nation and the world. I want to introduce Jonathan Wilson. Shayna Spann. Deontay Glover. And we have with us Police Chief Larry McKinley and Commander Brian Evans. And we're also looking for our Mayor, Karen Freeman Wilson, to join us as well. All right. So let me give us a few ground rules and a little background about this forum and the purpose. Joining us is Kwabene. He's also a part of our panel. Kwabene Wazuli. Okay. Number one. Okay, so we're going to give each panel member some time to talk about the demands that we gave to Police Chief Larry McKinley and to Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson in December. On December 19th, we had a rally and also a die-in in honor of the people, some of you saw the presentation, all across the nation who have been killed as a result of police brutality. So we had a rally and a die-in, and we presented some demands to our mayor and to Police Chief Larry McKinley. And so our panel is going to discuss them. They're going to have a period of 5 minutes each to speak, and then we're going to allow the audience, because this is about you, our community. You have a voice, and we want to hear you. So each of you, if you have had personal testimonies of police harassment or brutality, this is your time to speak. We're going to allow each of you 3 minutes. Maggie is going to be our timekeeper. Where's Maggie? Oh, there she is. And she also will be passing around the mic. So our rules are, number one, please stick to the time. We ask that we respect each other. We want to hear everybody, and we only have like an hour and a half. We want to make sure everybody has a chance to be heard. And then after everyone is heard, you will have 3 minutes each, and then we will have Police Chief McKinley, Commander Brian Evans, and our Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson to speak to the concerns of the audience in the community. Are there any questions? So we ask that you stick to the time, 3 minutes each. We want to implement also step back, step up, step back. So those who may be a little shy, we want to ask you to be powerful and speak your voice, speak your truth. So if you're normally a shy person, we ask you to take the mic and tell your story. And those of you who are usually so vocal, we want to hear you too, but let's allow the quiet ones a chance as well. And also respect the mic. We all have our own voice and our own way of seeing things, and we want everybody to be respected and heard. Can we agree to all those rules?
That sounds good.
All right, awesome. Because you know what we're about? Today we are not about fighting. We are not about fighting. We are about hearing each other, finding common ground, and equality and justice for all. Can we agree to that? Yes. All right. So there was a quote, Deontay sent me a video, and the quote was, we don't need to fight for freedom. We just need to be free. That's right. We all just be free. Can we all be free and live safely and feel like the community belongs to all of us? That's all we want. And so we're here to be free today. All right. So we're going to start with Jonathan. He has a little introduction about Vincent Smith. We're remembering Vincent Smith today. So we're going to start with Jonathan.
How y'all feeling?
All right.
Cool. So yeah, I have two stories I wanted to mention of folks who, one guy who was murdered here in Gary and another who was murdered not too far away in another city of Calumet City. So on February 1st, Stephon Watts, a black youth who had a form of autism known as Asperger's syndrome, experienced an extreme episode where his father could not get him to go to school. When Stephon's father called their hospital for assistance, he was told to call the cops. He dialed 311, a non-emergency number, hoping to get someone who was professionally trained to work with special needs children. Instead, Calumet City Police sent a squad car. When the cops arrived, Stephon's father insisted that his son was okay, but instead they forced their way into the house, and they proceeded to chase Stephon Watts around his house. And when Stephon, who had a butter knife in his hand because he was trying to unlock his Xbox, came at one of the cops with a butter knife, he was shot twice, once in the neck and once in the chest. In 2006, Vincent Smith Jr., a 16-year-old student at Westside High, was murdered by Gary police. He was unarmed and running away from a Gary patrolman, Levi Randolph, while Levi Randolph shot him several times, a fatal bullet landing near the back of his head. The police department claimed that Randolph feared for his life because Vincent appeared to be reaching into his sweatshirt for a gun. Vincent had no gun. His father stated it was murder. The police shot him in the back of the head. Vincent's death sparked many community protests, so eventually Randolph was charged with reckless homicide. Although Vincent's father and relatives struggled for justice through both the civil and criminal courts for years, that time never came. For those of who attended the trial, it was obvious that the prosecutor was not attempting to vigorously prosecute the cop the way she prosecutes other criminals every other day. Vincent's body didn't matter to the system. Stephon Watts' life didn't matter to the system. This is one of the many cases that demonstrated how the criminal and justice system, from cops to the courts, disregards black lives. I would like to add, while some people would say Vincent shouldn't have ran, or that maybe Stephon shouldn't have had that butter knife, we live in a society that has laws, and at least we would think that the police would be bound by those laws as well. The penalty from running from the police or stealing some cigarettes, as Mike Brown did, is not public execution. Yet this is exactly what happened to Vincent Smith, Mike Brown, and dozens of other black and Latino youth. In fact, young people like Wakia Boyd are murdered by the police without ever facing responsibility. Who in the power structure will speak for Vincent and his family? Who will fight for their justice? So far, Vincent, like so many other victims of police violence and brutality, are being regarded as collateral damage in the war against working people. The police have proven that they will kill us in the interest of instilling fear and compliance, so the powers that can be in control of us will still benefit. Our lives do matter, and more people are publicly declaring that they will not sit quietly in fear anymore. From Chicago to Gary to Baltimore to New York to LA to Oakland to Ferguson, we are standing in solidarity and saying, no more. So today I come at us with our first demand. We demand a complete end to the police sweeps that take place in this city and in this county. These sweeps are racist and target people that are already hurting economically. When I drive down Broadway, I see people getting pulled over. These are not murderers I see. These aren't rapists I see. These are mothers, grandmothers, fathers, grandfathers, and other working class people. With the discovery in the city of Ferguson by the Department of Justice that Ferguson was profiting off the back of black people there, with similar sweeps and similar tactics, which resulted in nothing but revenue for the city, which resulted more in revenue for the city than in lowering crime. Our first demand is for a complete and abrupt end to these sweeps in Gary and in the county.
Before I start, I just want to open up by saying, in order to have a peaceful Gary, we all have to be individually peaceful first. And the way that the system is set up now, peace only lies in compliance with the chaos. So this is where we put today we put the chaos to a halt and going into a different direction. So my demand here is transparency in the changing the policy and transparency in doing so. We all know the history of well, a lot of us know the history of the establishment of the police department with the capturing of the slaves to, generate revenue or what have you. But since then, the policies of the establishment of the police department hadn't really changed much. And if they have, we don't know about it. So we need to know what the policies are today. And we need to change some of these policies because the current policies allows things to happen where, in the cases mentioned before, police are called and people are getting killed, and they're killing these people while actually doing their job within the policy. So how we're calling the police to protect and serve, and ended up dead. So that don't seem right. So that's not a good equation. Not a good math, not right. So as mentioned before, we need to know what the policies are currently, and we need to know what the changes are. What changes have been made with the policies. That's what the initial demand is. Furthermore, we want to improve the relations between the public and the police. We don't want to have tension between the public and the police because that furthers the chaos, that keeps the chaos going. Because when the public don't know what the police is here for, they don't trust them. If the public has a better understanding of what the police is here for, what they're doing, I personally believe that the public will feel more comfortable around the police and more comfortable with calling the police. So transparency is changing policy and transparency with the changes in the policy is the demand that one of the other initial demands. And I'll close it out with that.
Today I'm here to discuss public reporting on stop and frisk demographics. That is one of our demands. We feel that it should be some type of public reporting on stop and frisk. First, do we all know what stop and frisk means? Do we have an idea of, okay, because it is a brief, non-intrusive police stop of a suspect. And the Fourth Amendment requires that the police have a reasonable suspicion that a crime is being or is about to be committed before stopping a suspect. So if the police reasonably suspect the person is armed and dangerous, they may conduct a frisk, a quick pat down of the person's outer clothing. So we just want to have a public, proper standard of the stop and frisk. And today I want to share a testimony of a young man who actually, I have a video, but unfortunately I'm not able to share it today, so I'll just share it on his behalf. This is a young man by the name of Deontay, and he is a Gary Citizens resident who was stopped on, not this, he's another Deontay. But he is a Gary citizen, and he was stopped on 47th and Pierce on April 1st, 2015 at around 8:30 p.m. Now, Deontay had his license. Deontay was on his way home that evening from a friend's house. Deontay was pulled over due to headlights. Yet somehow Deontay received a ticket for no insurance and car being towed for over 24 hours. Deontay was stopped by a Lake County police. Deontay paid $300 to get his car released, and he is still facing ongoing court fees and still dealing with the issue as we speak today. This is a young 24-year-old man who lives right here in Gary, Indiana. This is not the kind of relationship this young man should have with the cops, which is community-oriented policy services. And this young man should have, unfortunately, Black Lives Matter, and it seems as if when our young African American men or female women our encounter with the police is always aggressive. It's not a friendly encounter. It's not a friendly approach to even obey the frisk and stop. It's automatically fear in our young adults and, elders as well. When we see a cop nowadays, we don't feel secure and safe. So we would like, we are demanding a public reporting on stop and frisk demographics.
Good evening. Put this t-shirt on for a purpose. Hope you all can see it because it talks about Black history. And when we look back at our history, even going back beyond what we would call Black when we were in Africa, we had no police, we had no prisons in certain areas. We talked about this recently. We had a program, and this brother from Sierra Leone was there, and he came and said, you know what, after I spoke, he spoke. He said, in my village, we still don't have any police and any prisons. The community takes care of the issues. Another thing, we go back in our history, and Brother Jonathan touched on a little bit, the slave hunting, coon hunting, slave catching raids that they had back in the day, that we're having today in a city that's 85 to 90% African. It's not only wrong, it's embarrassing. It's ridiculous. It's crazy, and it must stop. We need to handle our own business. There's so many stories. I hope some of the people are here to talk about some of these stories. But I talked to a brother, barber in our community. He gets stopped. I don't know if it was Lake County, where this policeman was from, doing the scoop. His back light was out. So he goes, looks back, and my light's not out. The lady told him the light was out when I saw it. So his car gets towed to, I believe it was Lake Station. He had to go to Crown Point to pay money. Go to Lake Station, pay more money. Even if we were about squeezing money from our community into these courts in Gary to get money, but that's not even going in our community. So, they have to stop. Another brother said Lake County, he was on what we call Malcolm X Street, what they call Georgia Street. They stopped him in the cold, poured his drink out in his car, had him on the ground in the cold, just harassing people. Another sister, her daughter did some wrong, had a car that wasn't licensed properly. So they stopped her, she called her father to come pick the car up. He came over there to try to get the car. They disrespected him, told him to get on the curb, or they're going to arrest him. 70-some-year-old man in our community, disrespected him. I talked to school board members about that. 2 of them disrespected. Community activists, disrespected. Sister who works right here in this library, light-skinned sister with a dark-skinned boyfriend. She's out During one of these sweeps, cop come and ask her, because they were outside talking, are y'all all right? Are you all right? Harassing her. She leaves, yeah, we could, it's my boyfriend. Looking at him again. I guess he's thinking this a black man with a white woman in Gary. They don't know us. They're not part of our community. Our police who are here don't even like it. The ones I talk to do not like it. I talk to a sister, we often say, if you stop the people in Gary, 40% of us, maybe 50% of us will have some sort of warrant or not have a license or have some issue. We live in tough conditions here in this community.
That's right.
I believe you might be able to tell better, I know you're on the school board, but is it 40%, 50%, maybe 60% of our teachers don't live in our community? So the people who are left here are struggling. They're struggling. Right now, we're in the library. Our library president does not live in Gary. The treasurer does not live in Gary. I mean, all that is connected to the issues that we have because that's money leaving our community, and these crimes that are being committed are more so economic crimes. And so that we're struggling right here now. We have issues, and we agree we have issues. We know we can't go back right now to how it was in Africa where we don't have police or don't have jails. We understand that. But we don't need these outside police forces coming in here and harassing us and bothering us and breaking laws, messing with our Fourth Amendment rights. We don't need that, and it must stop. A couple other things about these warrants, we're going to talk about those even more. Oh, here it was, about the vacant homes. There was an article that we shared about 1.5 million black men missing. We talked about the 600,000 of them who were locked up. We talked about the 200,000 of them who have been murdered and others who have been died from some of these diseases because of all these poisonous products that we have in our community that are also being pushed on us. And we look at all these vacant homes in our community. We got all these men sitting up in these 6x9 boxes, these jails and prisons. They need to be in these homes taking care of their sons and protecting their daughters, and not locked up in this prison industrial complex. So Gary should be and can be a place where we can make that change. One of the things we talked about today was that do we want to happen in Baltimore and in Ferguson and in these other places, St. Louis, do we want that to happen here? And you guys may saw the news today, the young brothers in Baltimore ain't playing today. They're not playing, there's going to be some issues out there. We don't need that to happen here. Do we want that to happen here?
No.
We need to end these sweeps. We need to end these sweeps. We need to put the county in check for coming in here and harassing the people. There got to be some alternatives to that.
At this time, we're going to open it up for the community, and then we're going to come back to Police Chief McKinley and to Commander, I'm sorry, Brian Evans. Okay. All righty. So again, let me go over the rules once more. 3 minutes. Each of the community members has 3 minutes. And again, we're talking about your personal testimonies on stories of police brutality and police harassment, specifically in Gary, but also in Northwest Indiana. We're focusing on Gary today. Also, step up, step back. So let's give everybody a chance to speak, okay? The people that are always vocal, we want to hear from those who are not. So let's give everybody a chance to speak, and let's respect the mic. So we want to respect everybody's story, okay? All right. So before we start, I just want to say that Kwabena brought up some real issues about poverty and injustices in society that are leading up to the situations that we're seeing now with the police brutality and the high numbers of African American men, especially, but women as well, who are killed. They're not doing nothing any different than any other race, but for some reason, they're the ones getting killed. And it's so related to our social issues, related to poverty and injustice that's been going on for centuries, and that is coming to a head. So with that, let me go over the list of demands real quickly. Number 1 was end to city and county sweeps. Number 2, transparent anti-racist training. Number 3, public reporting on stop and frisk demographics. And number 7, end to predatory fines for low-level offenses. Those are the 4 that we're focusing on in this discussion, and we're going to have a future forum where we discuss the other 3 demands that were presented. All right, so now Maggie is going to keep the time, and she's going to pass around the mic. With the first person who wants to speak, come forward, please. Or stand up, and Maggie will give you the mic. Also, before she starts, if anyone did not sign in, please raise your hand, and someone will come around and bring you the sign-in sheet.
Where is the sign-in sheet right now?
Okay. No, she's going to hand you the mic. Just stand up and she'll hand you the mic. Again, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening. My name is Robert L. Bugg, and I'm a legal redress investigator for the NAACP. And as a legal redress investigator, we get a lot of complaints. Actually, I had a personal experience with the Maryville police. My son is currently having one of harassment. But the most underlying thing is the Lake Station, Maryville, and Portage. I had a church member whose son was caught over in Portage, allegedly for a traffic violation. Then they locked him up. He had license, everything's fine. They didn't even find him. But he was in the Kimball Transition Center, and I know him, and he graduated from there. So the judge told him, I don't know why you black people come over here. This is what you get when you come over here to Hobart. Now this has been an ongoing thing in Lake Station, Hobart specifically, and Maryville. The other thing, when I was at IU, there was a student that was handcuffed in Hobart, put over the hood of a police car, and they allowed the dog to bite her. And it was cold, she had on a coat, and they bit her through the coat. Nothing happened. So these things will happen. I didn't have any personal things other than when at Maryville, when the police officer stopped me. But I just want to share some of the things that come to the NAACP that never addressed, and we have to talk about the judges also.
By the way, I brought surveys, so if anybody has issues like that, we'd like to make sure that we talk with you later.
Talking to Mike Maggie.
Yeah, I figured I was loud enough to be heard.
Can you hear you?
Hello? This is low now. I have surveys, so anybody who's making mention, if they don't mind, that way we can formalize the complaint and follow through with questions and have it addressed. So, next.
Someone else from the community, yes.
And I might turn it off. I wasn't sure that.
Good evening. I thank everybody for coming because this is so important and we must do this. This is a democracy and we must make it work without violence. It's a shame what's happening in Baltimore, but the conditions have been laid for many years. I am an activist. I marched in the 60s, integrating counters, lunch counters and movie houses down in North Carolina. So this is Martha Coleman, and I'm on my 51st year in teaching in Gary. So I value my children and the community. And Black Lives Matter. Every life matters. Can you imagine one person in this room being killed by a policeman? How we would feel about one person? So if it can happen to all these beautiful young children that it has happened to, it can happen to us next. So it is so important for us to use the democratic process and get the demands changed. It's very important that we do that. I have 3 sons, so I had a lot of boys around my house. I love them. I taught them in school. I preferred the boys, the bad ones. Give me the bad ones, because I can, get them straight. And they always performed for me. So all 3 of my sons have been stopped by policemen. My son was in high school, had his license, and I was riding in the car with him, And I was so tired and sleepy, I just, laid back. I said, okay, Benjamin, go ahead and drive, and I'm just going to take a quick nap. And before I could lay there 3 or 4 minutes, the policeman stopped him. And I rose up, and I said, officer, what infraction did he cause? And he just said, "Jump, get out the car." He pulled out this big gun, scared me to death. Made me put my hands on the back of the car, started searching all around. And the reason he stopped us is because my son is brown skinned, and he was driving, and I had a Lexus. That's why he stopped us. So that is totally inappropriate. My eldest son was stopped. He had just left an establishment where he worked. He was bartending. Bartenders can't drink on the job. Right. And the policeman stopped him as soon as he got across the street to his car. Made him walk the line. He passed that. Okay, that wasn't enough. Okay, you're going to take a breathalyzer. And so he did refuse the breathalyzer because right before he left, he had a cocktail. So, I've had all of my sons stopped, 3. And we must continue the fight. And please, I thank you all for coming, and this must grow. We must prevent anything from happening like happening in Baltimore.
I'm not going to get up in the front and ask surgery. I thought about if I would want to talk about this or not, because I get tears in my eyes when I talk about it. My son went to the military, very smart, very bright. His father was a very police officer, and he came back from the military addicted to drugs. When my son was on the street, he didn't have to be like that because I'm a clinical social worker. Dad was a police officer. One of my daughter is a nurse. And so it's very difficult. The policeman stopped him, and I'm sure that my son was not looking very good, because you know what drugs do. Like, so he put him in the police car, and he handcuffed him. He was in the back seat, handcuffed. And I'm sure knowing my son, and when you on drugs, you don't say the right thing. But whatever he said, the policeman didn't like it. So he reached in the back with slapjack and hit him in the head and split his head. And I was mad about it. I probably could have sued the city of Gary. What happened was he took it to his father and took it to the police commission. I don't know what happened to it, but nothing happened from that. I'm not saying my son was right, but he was handcuffed. And he did not have to be hit with that steel flapjack. He has a permanent scar in his head now, so we don't know what's going to happen with that. So I've had some good experiences, I had some real bad experiences. And I decided I was going to talk about this. My grandson is in school, he's in college, and he worked on at the McDonald's on 61st and Broadway. So he got off from work, he had his uniform on, he stayed on 67th and Jefferson. I don't know what happened, his mother don't know what happened. But all we do know is that the police officer followed him to the driveway, up in his driveway, made him get out the car, searched and fixed him, when in fact he had on his uniform. He was very polite. And the only thing that happened, the dog inside the house started barking, which woke up my daughter and her husband. There was absolutely no need. I'm sure the police officer checks the license plate, which they always do when they get ready to stop you, checking the license plate. Let's be real. So I don't know why they even stopped him in the driveway, which was a Maryville police officer, and frisked him. But I've always told him, when the police officer stops you, say, yes, sir, no, sir. Don't be disrespectful, because you got to understand, they got the power. You have absolutely no power when a police officer stops you, whether you're right or wrong. So what you have to do, what I've taught them to do, is just, if you're right or wrong, just handle it another kind of way. Because at that particular time, it's going to be your word against theirs. And many times when you get to court, you don't have no word. The reason you don't have a word is because all of us like to respect the police officers, and the court does too. So So the court is expecting the police officer to tell the truth. Not to get up there and lie. And you have it doesn't make any difference what you say. People automatically think, and I'm not saying all officers this way, because there's some good officers, some bad ones, some good social workers, some bad social workers, some good sketches, some bad, but the ones that are not good, they need to do something about it. That's right. You know, you just don't back them up when they're wrong. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I'm not going to come to the front of the room. Sorry. My name is Nick. I live in Illinois, but work out here. I'm a commercial truck driver. Don't want to toot my own horn. Pretty good at my job. Because I have a lot of people's lives on the line when I'm in that truck. And my life as well. So I know most of the rules of the world, obeying all of them. But still doesn't stop the Gary Police Department, the Cherryville Police Department, the Highland Police Department, on and on throughout Northwest Indiana to pull me over because of the color of my skin. Now I have a lawyer. I'm one of the few lucky ones that actually have a good lawyer that loves going to court and bringing two cops through the ringer. Because that's their job. But I've been to a lot of funerals with a lot of people who don't have that privilege. And I'm sick and tired of going through them. Like the people in Ferguson, Missouri are sick and tired of going through it. Like the people in Baltimore, which you've seen right now, which is not a riot, it's a rebellion. It's a rebellion against this racist system that continues to enslave, incarcerate, and murder Black and Latino men and women on a constant basis. And people are sick of it, including myself. And the fact that this has to keep going on tells you that this is something wrong with this society. And you can't fix it by the ballot box. You can't fix it with clergy. You can't fix it by sending Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson constantly over to places and say everything's okay, and then it's not, and then it disappears. Things need to change. Now, if it means by getting rid of this system, then so be it, because it's got to go. You're closing down our schools, you're denying us health care, you're locking us up at vast amount of rates, unseen before in any other country, but yet you keep saying everything is okay. It's not okay. And I don't know about anyone else in this room, but I'm pretty sure I'm speaking for a lot of people. We're not going to take it anymore, and we're going to use any means necessary to stop it. You want to fight? I don't like fighting. I deplore violence, but I'm tired of this crap, and you're not going to put your hands on me, my family, or anyone else in this room, in this community, or any other community anymore. We've had enough. It stops today.
I'd like to ask a question of the police department. How many officers in the last 10 years have been prosecuted for ill behavior, and how many of those officers actually have been found guilty? Because it seems like when it comes down to the Black community, the prosecutor's office does not go over and above and beyond their duty in terms of prosecuting the police officers, but they make a big issue when something happens to a citizen. So these are some of the things that we looked at in the Black community. Why is it that every other community can have just as much crime? It doesn't get published, doesn't get publicized. They make us the boogeyman, and you never hear about the so-called bad cops who do break the law. And I might be wrong, because I grew up with officer friendly. Now, I don't understand how you can be officer friendly and take care of me when you don't start in your own home, cleaning house first.
That's a good question. We're going to go to the end of all the community discussion portion and have the police chief and commander respond.
My name is Ruth Needleman, and I guess I'm telling personal stories because I'm a historian, and I wrote a book on Black workers in Gary, and I taught Black workers in Gary for 35 years in labor studies. And I want to go back to the book that was being read on the Northwest campus called The New Jim Crow, and very much agree with the last speaker that this is not a problem of a few bad cops or bad cops and good cops. I think that that will get us nowhere. But looking at the history, and I think it was kind of referred to earlier, blacks came up to Gary really as fugitive slaves. Maybe not right after slavery, but they were being pushed out by the Klan and by everything else. So I think we could look at it that way. And they came up because there were a lot of industrial jobs that needed filling. When those industrial jobs started to disappear, that's when deindustrialization brought us incarceration. They brought the drugs into the ghettos, and I'm quoting indirectly from the new Jim Crow. And this incarceration was just a way of getting all those young, unemployed blacks and other minorities off the street. And when that wasn't enough, because we're still losing jobs, they began this increased and flagrant murder of black youth. And the goal in my mind, we could call it genocide, but I'll call it gentrification. That part of what is going on in Gary, which is not the strategy of the police or the strategy of some other person, is they are cleaning out the urban centers so that rich people can come into Gary and we can take Miller and turn it into Gary.
My name's Sam. I'm a Gary resident, and thanks to all those sharing their stories. I just want to share a quick one. A couple of years ago, I was visiting some friends in Crown Point, and across the street, there was a garage door open, Gary police car in the garage, huge Confederate flag in the garage. That is a symbol of terrorism. That is a symbol of treason. And I don't know how anyone could feel safe with people like that as your comrades. That's all I got to say. None of us are safe.
Hello, my name is Gail Thomas, and I'm a resident of Hobart. I've lived in Gary. I've lived in Maryville, Hobart, Portage. I have now my son is 28 years old. My son is black, and his teacher was Martha Coleman. And anyway, 2 years ago, my son was working at a condo association. He was a maintenance person at a condo association in Maryville, and he was on his way to work, and he came off of I-65 onto 61st Avenue, and then pulled into the condo association, which is right off of 61st Avenue, Regency Park, and got out of the car and was on his way to go into the building when a Maryville police car came roaring up behind him, jumped out, and told him to put his hands in the car, spread eagle, so he could search him and so forth. Oh no, the first thing he told him was to get back in the car. And my son has social anxiety and a touch of autism, so he was confused because he wanted to go to work. And now somebody's telling him to do something totally different than what he has his mind on. So he was, handcuffed, frisked, put in the police car. By this time, there's about 4 other Maryville police cars to get in on the excitement. And they took him to, there's nothing in the car. They searched the car. There's nothing in the car. And they said that he didn't use his turn signal when he turned into Regency Park. He was already in Regency Park and getting out of his car by the time the guy even entered Regency Park. So anyway, they took him to jail. we had him out of jail within 2 hours. We had him out of jail, and within another hour, we had his car back. But still, there was no reason for that. And then when he went to court, the whole policeman's report was nothing like the story my son told. And yes, they lie. When someone said earlier that the police department lies, when they do their report, they put on that report whatever they want to put on that report. So everything that my son told me that happened, and that my son repeated his story to his dad, to his sister, to his other sister, to his friend, to other people. He repeated that story over and over again, and it was the same story. He was not lying. But that police report was full of lies. And so now he has this trailing on his record. And what the police said, point blank, what the police said when they put him in the car and told him they were taking him to jail, they ran him to try to find him in the system. He wasn't in the system. Imagine that, a 27-year-old young black man not in the system. Well, we got to correct this.
We have about 19 more minutes for the community, and then we're going to hear from the police chief and our mayor.
Hello, I'm Alex Davis, the third. Well, when we was growing up, I heard the lady was saying about officer friendly. We did have, officer friendly, which was that was fun time. But it seemed like that police officers is not too popular today. I've been stopped for, at least 3 times. But that was on the road in Virginia, Mississippi, on the highway with my cousin and myself, and once in Gary. But I can't really say that they were harassing me because, I was kind of rolling down the road, so they were doing their job. Mississippi was the one I was kind of concerned about, but they were doing their job. But I was wondering, but if my problem though is if somebody messing with a friend of mine or brother or sister, that is a problem with me as well. Do unto those you would want them to do unto you. Since the police officers not being very popular today, do you think that maybe cameras can be put on officers when they answer a call of duty? And, that way you won't be going, he said, she said, that no, you'll know what's going on camera.
Eric Garner got killed on camera. Eric Garner got killed on. Lots of people getting killed on camera. Back here.
Hi, I went to school and I got my BS in criminology and criminal justice. And I always had a strong faith in our criminal justice system. I went to school in Arizona and I moved to Kentucky last year to be with my sister in Fort Knox. And on Christmas Eve, about 10:30, I'm driving home and I get pulled over for speeding. I just moved from Arizona, so I have flip-flops on. And the police officer tells me to get out of the car that I smelled like alcohol. So I get out of the car, I'm really compliant, and he takes my flip-flops, and I had glasses on and my glasses. And I'm standing on Christmas Eve in Kentucky, barefoot, and I cannot see. I have terrible vision. And I'm doing all of the sobriety tests, and I'm being really cooperative. And they're asking me that I grew up in a broken home, is anyone in my family in the system, what kind of education level do I have? Just asking very invasive questions. And I was so sure I was going to get a go. I was sober, and I'm getting really irritated at this point. Not allowed to make a phone call, so these are white officers, 2 white officers, they call for backup, and of course there are 2 more white male officers. So I'm on the road for probably about an hour. My car is getting checked, they're going through my stuff, and I end up getting arrested for a DUI. No insurance and speeding. So of course, I spend Christmas Eve in jail. I spend Christmas in jail. Finally can make a phone call. My mom drives from here to come get me out of jail. So I get an attorney. I try to get the best attorney I can. And my attorney told me that these are local country boys. This is his quote. These are local country boys, and I'm an outsider, and I'm not going to win this case. And we spent months and months going back and forth looking up laws to prove. So I go to the courthouse to get my footage, you know, because we're supposed to be on cameras. I'm doing my sobriety test, and I find out that the cameras weren't working in this car. And I have nothing in my favor. It's my word versus these officers. Their stories aren't even matching. But at the end of the day, I leave court. The speeding was dropped. The no insurance was dropped. But I leave with the DUI. And it's a struggle for your jobs. And, you know, it pops up on everything. It's so inconvenient. It's embarrassing. And the worst part is that it's not true. And I feel like I dedicated a lot of time and money into getting this degree for something that I believe so strongly in that just really let me down, and now I owe $60,000. It's just ridiculous, but yes.
Hi. As a mother of 2 sons, you fear every day of what's going to happen to your boys when they go out. And you know that God has not given you a spirit of fear, but as a woman and as a mother, your heart tells you different. My son lives in Arizona. The police busted into his apartment with, I don't know, smoke bombs or whatever. He crawled out of the apartment on his hands and knees, begging for his life. Please don't kill me, please don't kill me. They tased him after they handcuffed him over and beat him up. He was beat pretty bad. He went to the hospital, he called me. He said, Mom, when I got to the hospital, they were laughing at me, saying, please don't kill me, please don't kill me, making fun of him. They said a couple years ago, apparently he missed a court date. He doesn't even know what. And they're supposed to be extraditing him here. We haven't heard from him in 8 days. So I have no idea the condition of my son, where he is, what's going on. I know nothing. A couple nights ago, my daughter was talking to her friend who was in pain. He lost a friend. She's sitting in her car in front of the apartment building, in her pajamas, in her gown and house shoes. Police drives up, flashes the light on her, harasses her, tells her that she's parked in a handicapped park, which she wasn't. She had made her go upstairs to get me to come down and move the car. I come down, the car's not in a handicapped spot, but I moved it anyway. So that in case he came back around, it wasn't in the same spot. This has to stop. It has to stop. And the stress that mothers feel, African American women, anybody that we go through, you know, and I feel the sympathy of our white counterparts, but it's almost like you feel sympathy if a person gets burned with a cigarette, but you don't feel that burnt like they feel it.
Yes.
You know, so there's a difference. And thank God that the community and the world are getting involved in this. But I just wanted to share the pain of a mother, the fear of a mother, and the community.
Is there anyone else from the community?
Mayor, one of the vocal people.
Yeah. Okay, it's time for the vocal people now.
I held back further than you did.
Yeah, I've been really holding back, and I appreciate you giving me the time, Alicia. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Eve Gomez, and I'm a very loud person. God has given me the boldness so that I can speak for many. I represent the Latino, and I believe I represent the Latino community very well, if I may add, with respect, with dignity, with integrity, and with a lot of love. For those that know who EVE is, I'm also media, in a different way than all these reporters that are here, okay? I don't misquote, I don't sugarcoat it, I don't distort things, and I tell you just like it is. Being an interpreter in the community, this is what happened to me, which I can care less. They need more prayer than I do. I'm from Hammond, Indiana. I was raised here in Gary, Indiana from 75 to 93. So I still believe in this city. I still dream of going back and walking down Fifth Avenue in the dark. As white as I am, it don't matter. I interpret in the courts, and I see a lot of injustices in the court system, especially in Hammond, Indiana, the traffic court business, money-making business. They don't allow me to interpret in there anymore because I rallied, I protested. Some of you were in that protest with me, okay? And I spoke on the injustices. One black young man got arrested for doing nothing. He was in the room as a witness to a traffic case. Soon as he got up to the podium, young black man, Judge Harkins says, "You're in contempt." He's like, "For what? Contempt of what?" "Indecent exposure." We all looked, the whole courtroom, attorneys, police officers, and everybody and their mother looked. What was he talking about? Showing your underwear, indecent exposure. He had saggy pants, but the t-shirt was long enough. We didn't see an underwear. That young man, no one spoke on his behalf. Not one attorney got up to say, "Here's my card. We have like 150 witnesses in here that you did not show your underwear." What does that say? What does that say? And the next following Monday, the agency I subcontract with says, "Eve, Judge Harkins called and said, he doesn't want you to interpret there anymore." I said, "That's all right. I have to pray for him." My mayor even blocked me on Facebook. I said, "That's all right. I'm just going to pray for him too." See, I'm here to work with you, not to attack you. But you attacking a woman of God, I really need to pray for you. That's right. Right? So I'm so glad to be part of this, and I told my sister Alicia that I'll be making it. I'm here to hear more testimonies to bring them on my radio program, because we got to keep it real. And it's not about these politicians. With all due respect, Mayor, I love you very much. It's about the community as a whole. Community means come in unity. Thank you.
Anyone else? As Eve said, we're so happy to see us come together as a Black Lives Matters movement, Hammond and Gary coming together in this forum. So thank you again.
Hello, my name is Brittany Buggs. I'm a recording artist as well. I lived in Atlanta for 3 years, and basically my whole life I have been in the understanding of how the system works. Before I graduated, my senior year of high school was the first time that I myself was arrested. And it was by a police officer who was a security guard at my school. He took my cell phone out of my hand while I was talking to my mother. He told me cell phones aren't allowed. So I'm 18 and I'm very hormonal, so I snatched it back. And he proceeded to physically restrain me and arrested me and said that I was trying to fight him. He came to court and showed up and explained to an entire courtroom how an 18-year-old little girl beat him up in a school. Now that was my first time. The second time that I was arrested and went to jail, it was outside of Bennigan's, the nightclub. I think it was called Diamonds. What was it called? It was something like that. Yeah, something like that. But I was outside and I was going inside the club. And again, it was a police officer. He was not in uniform. He was in all black. I'm assuming he was being a security guard that night. But he tried to talk to me. He was like, "Hey, girl, hey, hey." And I kept walking. And he grabbed my arm. And he said, "Hey, didn't you hear me talking to you?" And I said, "No, I'm going inside." He said, "Well, I'm a police officer. You have to do what I tell you to do. You have to listen to me." So again, I snatched my arm away. I'm like, "No, I don't know you're a police officer. You're in all black. I don't know what's going on." And he was like, "Okay, that's disorderly conduct." And he arrested me and took me to jail. It wasn't the first time. Yeah, he took me to jail. And he never made a police report out. By the time, it was Christmas Eve. Also, I spent Christmas in jail that year. By the time I got to court, he didn't even make a report out. He didn't even take the time. I just spent Christmas in jail, and that was it. It was thrown out. That was it. Now, since then, since I've lived in Atlanta, you know, when everything started happening, the Eric Garner thing, and all of these things took place, I was very active on social network, and I was trying to get people to kind of understand that it isn't a isolated event. It doesn't just happen in one city or to one family or in one place, but it's everywhere. I've witnessed it in Atlanta, like I've witnessed it here, like I've witnessed it in Fort Wayne, wherever I've been. And I explained on Twitter one time, it might have been Twitter or Facebook, but I said, it's very easy to be passionate about it and excited about it when it just happened. When it just happened today or it just happened yesterday, we all want to get up, we all want to say something, we're angry, we're furious, but 2 weeks from now, you won't care as much. You'll have your paycheck, you'll want to go shopping, your kids will have things they need to do, and this won't be as important. But it will be when it's your son or it's your brother, because then every day after that is simply a reminder of what has happened. And I said those exact words, and exactly, I think it was about a month ago, in Atlanta. You might have read about the case, but a young man named TJ was shot and killed in Atlanta by the police leaving his workplace. I knew this boy. He sat on my couch in Atlanta. Me and his brother were very good friends. And his brother was on the internet the next day. He was writing to everybody, all these famous people that live in Atlanta. And he's saying, you all need to say something. You need to get active. The police killed my brother. And I sat there and I thought about it. And I said, this was the same exact guy where I was just talking about all this other stuff yesterday when I was trying to get people to tweet about it, talk about it. It didn't mean anything until his brother was killed by the police. And then it was very important. And now he was angry at everybody else for not caring as much. But it will always be that way until we wake up and realize that it will be your brother next. It will be your son. If it can be theirs, it can be yours. And every day that you sit down at your table and have dinner, you will be reminded of what you didn't do when you had the chance. So we have to feel like we are a community. Your son is my son. Your brother is my brother. If it happens to you, it happens.
Good evening. The chief lost his voice, so I want to talk about a couple of issues that you raised. One of the things that you said was about stop and frisk. One of the stop is the sweeps. Under Chief McKinley's tenure, we completely stopped the sweeps in 2014. There hasn't been a sweep under the Chief McKinley's tenure where we utilized outside agencies to come in and police our streets. That does not mean you don't see the county, the state, or UN police officers in the city because they have the jurisdiction and ability to go here. But we do not ask or work with outside agencies to sweep our streets at all anymore. What we have gone to is what we call hotspot policing. Hotspot policing is where we use the data that we gather daily. At the end of the week, we decide where we're going to put the most officers. An example of that is 2 weeks ago, we had approximately 3 shootings in the city of Gary and a homicide. They were in the Glen Park, they were in the Glen Park area. And what we did was put the majority large force out there for the next week or so to try to address some of the problems. When that problem is corrected, we move the area to another hotspot area based upon the data. We follow the data. We do not do the sweeps anymore. That's something that he took over, but something that was done by previous chief.
So what was it, I had a lot of callers calling in one day. We had cops from all different cities on 5th and Broadway last summer. What was that?
That was last summer.
2014. That was this past summer.
He said since 2014. How long ago?
July, end of July.
Okay,
So we're
around
thinking
that time last year. Okay.
I still see lots of on Broadway and Grant all the time, all day long. So to me, that looks like a sweep. It smells like a sweep. It's how big is a sweep?
Well, it's not saying, I mean, we still have some bad people in the nation, not only just in the city here, we still have bad people in the nation. And as far as the sweep is concerned, is that it's time to stop holding the entire city at bay. We've identified our top offenders throughout the city, and those are the ones that we really need to address. And we're moving forward with our Gary for Life comprehensive crime reduction strategy program. We can't just hold our whole city at bay.
So we do see
the state police and the county police on the streets though, right?
Yes, you do.
Yes, you will see. And you will also see IUN Police Department, which we partner with. Some of their officers work, they work with us every day. They've expanded their patrol area around the University Park area. IUN and college police officers are police officers. One of the things I think our public needs to be educated on, and this is a big contrast with any of our residents who used to live in Illinois. In Indiana, a police officer is state certified. We all go to the same academy. We all get the same certification, and we all have statewide jurisdiction. In Illinois, it's not the same way. They have home rule. So if a Chicago police officer is outside of his jurisdiction, or another police officer over there is outside of his jurisdiction, their abilities are limited. It's not the same in Indiana. Our state police and our county police do work with us in our areas when we need help. Our county police has our county jail, we no longer have a jail in the city. And we work with them constantly. As it relates to the complaints that you may have about other agencies, we can't sit up here and answer for Hobart, East Chicago, all those jurisdictions. But what we can tell you is that we take every complaint seriously. With that in mind, another thing that the chief has done is he has moved internal affairs closer to the center of the city. They are now located, I want to write this down, at 210 East 5th Avenue. 210 East 5th Avenue.
209. Oh, that's somebody take us here. Get it up.
The Lake County Police, though, we mentioned it earlier, the Lake County Police, there's been a lot of issues with them. I know we talked after that one meeting we had, and, I talked to one of my friends and said, they haven't had a sweeper here in a long time. He said, well, I know what you're talking about, because the county's out here, they've been stopping people who are walking. You guys should just maybe kind of put them in check, then, if they're gonna, because I've had a lot of stories even about them coming in and treating us. Like a lot of stories I said, this guy at the meeting they had at IUN last year, he was a Lake County cop who said, let's go out, have some fun, and arrest a lot of people. That was a Lake County cop, so they need to be put in check.
Well, as it relates to any type of complaint that you may have, like maybe I was getting ready to get information from internal affairs. If you have a complaint even with Lake County, you can contact our internal affairs, and then in turn, they will actually forward that information to Lake County, and those issues will be addressed.
Do we have the number to internal affairs?
Yes, I was going to give it to you. I asked for the address from the internal affairs commander, and I was dyslexic. It is 201 East 5th Avenue. Their telephone number is 219-944-1244. 219-944-1244. The Internal Affairs Division works directly for the Chief of Police. I can't direct them what to do, nor can any other commander. They are outside of our building, so you as a public can feel comfortable going to see them. There was a study done several years ago that said a lot of people didn't make complaints with police officers because they didn't want to come to the police department and face the same people that they were complaining on. So they are located outside of our building. And if you go there and you go with any complaint or any type of concern you have, especially about professionalism or anything else, we want to hear about it. A lot of times, if we don't know about the problem, we can't correct it. If you don't complain to us or let us know what's going on, there's no way we can address it. And if something is going on, if there's a bad seat like anywhere, if he isn't or she isn't addressed, they will just continue their behavior and think it's okay.
Let's touch bases on that. With this blue wall that's going on with the fraternity police department, we understand that the police protect each other when it comes to, we do have good cops. And we got a lot of bad cops. Oh, yeah, we do have good cops, but we got a lot of bad cops. Yes. And they got to a point where it's almost where the good cops can't be the good cops because of so many of the bad cops. It got to a point where you have the bad cops even training some of the good cops to inherit some. No, really, to inherit some of those bad characteristics. And with that being said, though, the blue wall, they protect each other. And as far as like gathering statistics and things of that nature to measure or analyze the behavior of the, gathering data about the behavior of the police department or whatever, it's predicated upon people's reports. And reported to, you make these reports, how do we trust that these complaints are going to get to the right people?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of mistrust as far as that's concerned with this blue wall. We can report, we can make complaints, make calls. I hear a lot of stories about people calling the police department and calling whoever and not getting anywhere, running into a brick wall. So what do we do as far as that's concerned? And that goes into the one of the demands that I spoke of earlier, the policies. If you change the policies to where it's what basically is policy. Policies make a big difference in the way these the protocol is as far as like handling these complaints and things of that nature.
Well, he's referring to the blue wall of silence. That's when you have officers who see another officer do something bad, but they want to protect it, just like we have with Rodney King is that. Our administration don't condone that. That's why we've actually continued to send our officers through ethics training to change that culture of how officers feel and how they do their job. As it relates to the community, as I know some of you probably don't know, but we've been selected as the National Initiative for Building Community Trust with the community. And they will actually start coming in tomorrow, but we're trying to build those relationships with the public. I fought very hard for us to be selected as one of the cities because I felt that we did need them to come in and actually give us that assistance. But Commander Evans will give you more information in regards to that.
The National Network for Safe Communities, the National Initiative, we're one of the cities selected as a pilot city. Their site investigation team is coming here tomorrow. They will be here tomorrow, speaking with the chief, the command staff, our mayor, our city council, our prosecutor, our courts, and they will assess our city and give us guidance on how to do just the things he talked about, our ethics training, implicit bias, things of those nature with our officers and our community. One of the things I heard here that I think, I don't know how important it sounded, was that we have to have a relationship with the community. We can't be apart when it comes to policing. I heard you talk about earlier how in Africa the community policed itself. Well, we're part of the community. We have to be part of the conversation and we have to be part of the solution. As it relates to the smaller signs that you talked about, I understand exactly what you mean by that. Been a police for 20 years. But complaints for police misconduct are very important. Our Internal Affairs Division takes those things very important. And our officers don't want to get an internal affairs complaint against them. And internal affairs complaints go straight to the police commission, as the commissioner was explaining. They're not judged by us. We don't decide what happens to the complaint. If it's something that's really egregious, it goes to the police commission. They have a hearing officer, and the police commission hears all the evidence. The police commission is made up of people from the community. So it's a process which you should come and witness for yourself. You can come to one of the police commissioner meetings. We have public safety forums that you can come to, and the Citizens Academy, so you can see exactly how the police department works.
Yes. We want to hear from our mayor at this time, and then we're going to have to close down. With a call to action.
First, let me thank the Coalition of Black Lives Matter for hosting this forum and for giving us an opportunity to present. I sat there and I had a number of reactions. The first is as a mom, because while I have a daughter, my daughter goes out with friends who are male. And you never really sleep easily when you're waiting for your child to come home. You don't know what happens. You don't know whether they will get stopped. So I understand that clearly, probably as well as any mother would, although being the mother of a male is different. I also probably more than any other mayor in the country, have a perspective that is unique because I have seen this system. Because we're not just talking about the police. That's been our primary conversation tonight. But I've been a judge, I've been a deputy prosecutor, but I spent most of my time as a defense attorney. In fact, over 20 years with criminal defendants from everybody from misdemeanors and traffic cases to axe murders, literally, capital murders. And I've also seen this as a victim of crime. I had a gun in my face when my mother and my daughter and I were just going home from church in an afternoon. And I reject the notion that the police or public officials or anyone who lives here is not a part of the community. We are all community. And I think one of the challenges that we have is to create a level of trust, a level of communication, because trust really does come from knowing somebody. You know, you get to know them, you either trust them or you don't. You communicate with them, you get a sense of what they're saying to you is accurate or it isn't. And it comes over time. You know, it's one thing for the chief to sit here and say, we're not doing sweeps anymore. But it's another thing for you to see over the course of time that it isn't happening. Now, I will tell you about sweeps. I am following his leadership because I think, and I've seen, that there is some value there. But to the extent that we have determined and that our chief has determined that there is another way to get things done, I follow that leadership. I accept that because he's the expert in policing. But at the end of the day, the approach that we have chosen to take and that he's chosen to take is community policing. That is to work with the community to ensure that there is a give and take, there is a back and forth, there is a dialogue that makes the police better, but also that makes the community better. At the end of the day, we are committed to making sure that Gary is a safer community, but we are also committed to ensuring that the right officers are in fact policing in not just a constitutional way, but in a humane way that ensures everyone's safety. So I appreciate you all for being here. I look forward to continued dialogue. I would hope that you understand that we are all, every one of us in this room, are a part of the community. And what that really does require is that we have a common effort to ensure that the community is safe and that we move forward as a community.
We're going to end today with a call to action. And we're happy to hear that our police chief, our commander, and our mayor are seeing everyone as part of the community, including themselves and including the police. We're happy to see that, we're happy to hear that, and we want to see it in action, and we believe we will. So thank you all for coming. Thank you for allowing the community to have a voice. We appreciate that, right, community? Because your voice matters. We are all here because of community. Okay, so, did you want to say something, John? When I say we are all a part of the community, all of the social factors that have led to the events that we're seeing today with the police brutality, the poverty, the racism, all of the violence that's coming to a head, we all have to be a part of the solution. We all have to own our communities. We all have to love and value ourselves and each other. And so let's take a step. We're seeing all institutions change. How many of you all know it's time for change across the board? The justice system, our education systems, what else? The economic systems, the banking system. It's time for change because it's been oppressive, and it's only for a few, and it's time for equality and justice for all. So we're going to have Jonathan have some words, and then we have some things that are going on in the community we want to tell you about. We want to empower ourselves. There are some great things going on to bring about change, and we want to tell you all about it. So go ahead, Jonathan.
So when I was 8 years old, my mother had the talk with me, an 8-year-old, in which she told me how I should conduct myself when interacting with police. Don't talk too loud. Don't talk too much, but don't talk too little. Make eye contact, but not too much eye contact that you might appear to be a threat. So I think with this, and this is a code of conduct that I think a lot of young black males are taught as we're growing up and coming up in a society. So I hope with these forums, with these town hall meetings, we're putting in place a code of conduct with police. Because I don't think we should be telling 8-year-olds how they should conduct themselves around police so they can go home at night. I don't think that should be the situation that we live in this society. So once again, I'll restate our demands. We want a complete end to city sweeps and county sweeps. We want transparent, anti-racist training. We want public reporting on stop and frisk demographics. And we want an end to predatory fines and low-level offenses. And we also want you all to join us as we plan more events like this and as we build this coalition across Gary, across Hammond, across East Chicago, and across this country to end police brutality and end police violence. Black Lives Matter Northwest Indiana, we meet every Wednesday. We will be meeting this Wednesday in Trinity United Church of Christ, I think at 7 o'clock. At 7 o'clock. If anybody wants information on how you can join this movement and not just be over there, but be a part of planning how we can bring an end to these things, please let us know. Everybody who's involved with Black Lives Matter Northwest Indiana, please put your hands in the air so folks who are not can come and talk to you afterwards and get more information on how they can be involved. We also have another city town hall meeting in which we will talk about the other demands that we have and continue this dialogue. I do not know the date for that though.
May 15th, and there are some more questions in the audience, and we want you to come to the May 15th forum as well, and we will have the date, the location for you at a later date.
And then we also have single parents, because we also understand that police brutality is just a piece of the pie. That's just a piece of the system that constantly oppresses black folk and Latino folk and white working class folks. So we want to be a part of a bigger thing. So there's a single parents conference on May 16th. So that's a double whammy right there. May 15th and then May 16th. So please be a part of this organization, this movement. Like I said, we will be meeting next Wednesday at 7 p.m. So thank you all for coming out. And let's change the world, y'all.
Yes. And before we end, there is a youth violence prevention conference, you all. We are getting our youth prepared to lead, okay? We have some amazing youth in the city of Gary. There is a youth prevention conference. Where's Maggie? Would anybody, if you would like one, raise your hand. It's going to be May 15th. That's a grand day. May 15th from 9 to 2 at IUN at the Savannah Center. And it's for adults. There are workshops for adults to understand the impact of violence and how we can make a change. It's sponsored by Coffee, community organizations for families and youth. So come on, let's get involved and be a part of the change.
I have one other event. That's okay.
For everybody in the room, I want you to look at Jonathan up here. This is what Gary produces. We have a full-grade scholar.
One of my young leaders is beautiful. Hey, Malcolm X spoke at a rally about police brutality back in 1962 or 63 in Los Angeles. But he talked about his own internet. He talked about how the media played a role in having police have this image of young blacks, of black people. it still is. So we're also part, I want to share with people real quick, part of the Clear the Airways project. Well, we've been here this hour and a half. Radio stations, Power 92.3 and WGCI, have told our children to go out and shoot it out with the police and to spray rusty ends like WD-40. And this is constant. This is back to back to back. To trap police, to be in love with the cocoa. And that image that's put out there by, they say more white people listen to more hip hop than black people do. That's what they say. So they go up to be police. And they see these images out there, and how do they react to it? So that's a whole other thing that we have to deal with and address. So there's a forum at Purdue Cal Wednesday. There is a forum on the music and the impact on us. It's Clear the Airways. So keep your eyes out, and we gotta work. We gotta get that crap off. That's another nationwide issue. Very important. Thank you.
Thank you all again. If you would like a survey